wait, there's a whole lot in what you just said that I'm stuck on when somebody brings you guilt. I'm immediately thinking, no, thank you.
If you did something, you didn't acknowledge it, you're unaware, somebody brings it to your attention and you push it away. Is that now internalized and brings shame? And the shame is what you're not acknowledging, right? And now you're holding the shame because you're not acknowledging the feelings that were put on somebody, right? Something that you did, the guilt, right? Or whatever that first initial thing was, right? You feel guilty, and does that bring the shame? Does the shame come after the guilty feeling when you don't resolve it? Does that bring in the shame? And now you carry the shame because you didn't address the guilt.
Whoa. I think that shame, for me, okay, this is fun. I love this conversation because these are in my wheelhouse for real. Like, these kind of emotions and these ways of being are pertinent. They're really important to us as human beings to like navigate interpersonal relationships. We have to get it right. Otherwise, we're going to be unresolved. And then we're going to get to our deathbeds, and this shit is what keeps us from having an honorable, peaceful death. And we all deserve to fucking go out in an honorable way. So, having said that, shame, I think, is more of, it speaks to more of who you think you are as a person, right? Like, I can feel shame because I'm being judged by something, which I then internalize and judge myself on something that I did because I think it speaks to who I am as a person. It's different than feeling guilty because I think guilt is something I did. It's a slight difference, right? It's like a behavior or an action that I did. Like I was mean to you, or I told a white lie, or I did something, or I was rude. And I know when I'm doing it, right? So that's where the guilt comes, because I'm very aware that I did it. The shame is more about a way of being that I feel like I'm being judged on. I don't know if this makes sense. I'm working through this.
No,
like, this is.
No one in a court case says that you're shamed. They say you're guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And in that sense, you would say you're not. I don't think you're missing the mark where you would say that maybe guilt is a reflection of action or inaction.
Mm-hmm.
In that sense. So as we talk about what motivates us, right, and how we're motivated to avoid guilt or avoid shame, now that I've introduced the term into this, so apologies first off for bringing that word in, open all other can. As far as those motivations go, I'm curious, what's the alternative motivator? The more desired one?
I raised my hand because there were so many things that we've done sex trafficking, we've done politics. I'm going to religion. Screw it.
Oh shit! I'm leaving.
I don't believe in our original natural state, that we actually were burdened hugely with guilt and shame and blame. We have, as a process of indoctrination and use of power, been led to believe that we exist under the auspice of a punishing God. Now, I know there's a different belief of all loving, but that's not where we started off necessarily. The use of power of you're going straight to hell for that one. You should feel bad. That you're not allowed to do what's in the 10 Commandments. You're not allowed to exhibit these principles of sin. And we have generationally had this stuff put on us. And we know that there are people who act dreadfully, will go to a confession and then walk out and continue to act dreadfully from the micro scale, whether that's abusing the kids, abusing the wife, and this goes both ways, up to huge level, I don't think in most Indigenous societies that their belief system really had the same degrees of blame and shame and guilt placed upon them. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
As you're speaking, I'm thinking again, such is what makes serial killers, right? Like all of this blame, judgment, this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that. I mean, it's in 9 out of 10 serial killer stories you hear, it's like something like that, with all of this oppression and kind of walking around with this a shit ton of blame and shame. Like, why? Why? I am hashtag stop the shame and blame game. Stop. Why do we have to carry this shit? We don't. Brett, did it answer your question?
No.
It didn't answer?
No, because I feel like if
you have a specific example, like maybe it'll be like different if there's something specific that, I don't know, like it's easier when we talk from our own real experiences to try to figure it out.
I'm not really sure. I'm trying to put it together, but like if there's a part of something you did, but you're not acknowledging that you did it, the shame comes in, right? Because you're not acknowledging. So then now you're feeling shameful that I did it. Now I'm not acknowledging it. I was guilty. I did do something, right? But then you don't acknowledge it. And now the shame comes in because you don't want to acknowledge it. So now it's a shameful thing, right? You start, it shifts from the guilt, grows into shame, I feel like.
Yeah, because I would pose the idea that if you're not acknowledging it, that means you're aware of it, but you don't want to admit that you actually did X, Y, or Z, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's, again, you're judging yourself. There's the self-judgment there. I know that I did it. I'm being told that I did this, but I don't want to acknowledge that I did it. So now I feel shame that I might be the type of person that who I really am is someone who can't admit when they're wrong. So that's where shame comes from. I think it's I'm judging myself because am I that person? Like, is that really who I am? It's about your essence.
Judge yourself.
Of your essence of who you are. Not for the act of what you did to hurt someone.
Okay.
I don't know.
If we lived in a more restorative than punitive society, and I appreciate we're all sort of northwest of the globe here, then I believe we would feel less condemned. If you knew that you had made a mistake and you took it to the elders in your village and they were able to say, look, yes, you know, that was probably wrong. You shouldn't have taken somebody's salmon that they were working hard to catch. But you can make up for that by sharing something you've made, restoring the salmon to the person that was supposed to have it in the first place, whatever, rather than you are bad, you don't deserve to be with the rest of the tribe and we cast you out of our village. People are much more likely to go for, yeah, screwed up, but at least I know people are going to deal with me in a responsible way. I think societally, we are not taught that is what is going to happen. You know, Tim mentioned being guilty in court. That's how our laws have evolved. You no longer get an opportunity to say, yeah, look, you know, you were right, that was your sheep. I shouldn't have put it in my field. you get taken to court, you get a fine, you get sentenced to prison, whatever. There's no opportunity. And actually, what does that do for the person that has lost their sheep? It doesn't necessarily return the sheep to them. At some point, we have to become aware enough that something went awry. We can make it better. It was better not to have done it. Thinking about apologising, better not to have to apologise. But if you have screwed up, it would be a lot nicer if we could comfortably hold our hands up and say, "Yeah, that was wrong."
This is
sorry. No, you go.
No, I'm enjoying this conversation only because it's like circling around like the big five, right? Like we got the big five here. We have blame, shame, guilt, judgment, and forgiveness. They do a nice dance with each other, all of these things. They feed into each other. One cannot happen without the other, kind of stuff. I'm really intrigued by this conversation. Like, what comes first? What leads to what? How do you resolve any of it? To Brett's example, like, I feel like when you did something, right? Like if somebody makes it aware to you, like you said that to me and you hurt my feelings. Oh shit. Like I wasn't aware I was doing it when I did it, but now I'm aware. You brought it to my awareness that I hurt you. So now I have to sit with that and decide what I want to do with that. And your example was, I don't want to acknowledge that I hurt you, right? Which either means I'm stuck in my belief that no way, I didn't mean to, so that means it didn't happen. Or this is too hard for me to understand that I actually could hurt you. And I don't want to take a look at what that means about me, that I was able to do that. And which speaks to us as humans not wanting to be wrong about things, right? Like not wanting to cause hurt to somebody else really, and not wanting to be wrong, because you have to be able to admit you were wrong in order to fix some of the hurts that we do. And I think that's where some of us get stuck. So the shame comes with, what does it say about me as a person that I'm not able to not be right all the time? And where does that come from? That is what I'm getting. I just made that up. Am I brilliant? Hashtag Erika's brilliant. No, I'm kidding. That's a joke. That's a joke.
Why did you feel the need to say you make a mistake about being brilliant?
Let's reverse back to 2 episodes ago, maybe, because I haven't quite gotten to my superpower yet. And it still feels uncomfortable for me to acknowledge that I might have some profound things to say.
Brilliant. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen.
Now he mocked me, so now I'm definitely never going to say I'm brilliant. But go ahead, Tim.
No, this is probably the most, over the last few weeks, especially, this is the deepest and the most thought-provoking conversation I think that we've been having, and I'm grateful for it. And I'm reminded, and I'm going to botch it, but I'm reminded of a line from a film I saw once that said something along the lines of, "Life is a heavy burden to put upon yourself." And it was referencing sluggishly, depressedly, shamefully, continually to live below your potential as penance for decisions you had made. And I always seem to tie the notion to that. I don't think guilt serves us. I don't think shame serves us. It does nothing but to keep us limited. However, it can shed a light on the areas, or shed a light towards the conduct and behavior that we can choose to adopt to overcome such things. You talked about somebody coming and saying, "You hurt my feelings," and then us questioning whether or not we needed to apologize. One of the things that pops in my mind when you say that is, there's a lot of people who look at you and go, "Well, maybe you just shouldn't be offended." Right? Or maybe I said something completely innocent and you were just so touchy, right? And now you start doing the blame game, right? Well, was I wrong, or are you wrong for being offended? And what do you apologize for in that situation? You apologize because somebody else doesn't have the emotional resilience that you think they should have, because that's not the kind of apology I ever want to give, even though that seems to be that passive aggressive way of apologizing, but not really apologizing, doesn't it? I'm sorry you were offended by that. Like, not sorry I said it. I'm not sorry I did it. Sorry you were offended by it. It becomes a very complicated, although not complicated at all, relationship almost with the truth and who you are, who you want to be, the kind of person that you want to present to the world and show up as. And so these things affect us internally. They can also motivate us in our relationships and how we engage externally. And then more broadly, how do we leave our stamp on the world? What does our what motivates us to, are we motivated simply to avoid as many resentful moments in life, or are we motivated instead by something stronger, something more powerful, and not held back by the external shame, judgments, guilt, which part of this conversation has gone around, but then also not held captive by our own internal shame and guilt that prevents us from growing and moving on and apologizing and continuing to become that person. It's almost like there's an inner dance between the two. And the solution to that is every other week so far, the 71, 72 weeks prior to this, I'm sure the solutions can be found in every single one of those and every single conversation you may potentially have with somebody.
I think we're wrapping up this episode because we had that break, and this episode feels like it's forever long, but possibly get 2 episodes out of this, Alec. I don't know. My final thoughts on this are I'm really intrigued by how do you make a proper apology for any pain you may have caused someone, whether directly or indirectly, knowing it or not, by doing or not doing, but still standing firm in what you believe, right? Like, I'm not going to apologize for, this is what it feels like for me. This is what I believe. However, I don't want to be the person who caused you any pain, but your level of pain is up to you. I can't control that. How do you make the proper apology to clear yourself and to land it with the other person that you actually, depending on who you're talking to, care about how they feel without denying yourself of what you said, like negating it all in one swoop?
Yeah, because what you just described there was almost literally what Tim had just said about, like, you being offended. Your level of offense, your level of hurt, whatever, are on you. So it does bring us back to the question of, why are you apologizing? What are you apologizing for? And the sincerity of it. Because some people litter their everyday with sorry, 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 and it does make you wonder what they're actually sorry for, because you can't say sorry 50 times in a day and them all actually be meaningful apologies. And I think meaningful is key, but I can almost hear Tim thinking, but what do we mean by meaning? Where, we can't have meaning about something without the experience of it. Your meaningful is different to my meaningful. So should we just stop with apologies ever?
I think this is just more boundary work for me, is what I'm hearing here, right? Because I have to be comfortable if somebody is going to continue to be upset or offended by something I said. If I'm not willing to take back what I said, I have to be okay with it. And that's boundary work. Like, I'm not going to just rapid fire apologize for everything anybody might be upset about if I don't feel bad about it. Honestly, like, it's okay for me to believe what I believe. How you feel about it is up to you.
I'm wondering now, the sincerity of your apology, to use your words, Alec. If an apology is delivered or given especially sincerely, do you not then honor the other person's ability to take accountability for their emotions? Right? I'm apologizing to you. I cannot affect whether or not you accept the apology, but the ball becomes in your court. In what sense I honor your ability, your autonomy to now make the decision, right? Do I let this go? Do I live with it for a while? Can I move? That is now fully within the control. If you again have apologized sincerely enough and actually meant it, and it's not just a cast off apology, you almost through that get to honor the other person's autonomy and letting them now say I'm going to get over it. Because some people, again, to go back to my example of my daughter, doesn't want to apologize if the other person's not going to accept it. There's a conditionality in that way of looking at that exchange. You unburden yourself to an extent when you apologize to somebody, regardless if they are accepting it or not. But again, now I honor your autonomy to be able to accept it or not. The rest is up to you. And if you want to continue to have this relationship, right, we can keep talking about it or whatnot, but it kind of shows, it reflects the mirror back.
Yeah, there's you don't know who you're sitting across from, and are they as evolved as you are, or reflective enough? And there's a whole part that's played there, so you got to know the dance, like whether you can make your apology and you can be sincere, but if somebody's like offended, there is no apology that you are going to make, right? So sometimes you just have to be okay with making an apology, and it may never be good enough for that person, right? Because maybe that person isn't at that level yet. And it's just about you being at that level where you can, and you're being as sincere as you possibly can, right? And being okay with it, right? And it's hard because it's kind of like, I'm sorry you feel that way, right? It's not the right way, but it's kind of what it is. I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm trying to apologize as sincere as I possibly can, but I don't know if there's a way that I can do that. Right? So there's kind of knowing who's sitting across from you and who you're speaking with is a part of it. And just holding true to yourself. I think everything comes back to the individual and what we're doing and just being true to you and accountable for what you're doing, right? And if I offended somebody and I apologize and they're like, no, that's not, I'm sorry you feel that way. I apologize to the best of my ability. I'm not sure I fully understand. And so we agree to disagree. And I can understand that. I can live with that. And we can revisit it. You know what I mean? Depending upon who they are. If it's somebody that you're going to be in your life, then yeah. You know, that you can always revisit that. Maybe they can shift, or maybe you shift, but yeah.
Well, we have to wrap this up because this is long episode. I'm thinking, yes. So, but I would love to revisit this conversation because I feel there is way more to cover within what we just talked about. So, yeah, I'm just going to say we're done. Unless Alec, you have any closing thoughts or anything that you want to say?
Just to remind people that our contact details are always in the chat, and we will see you in the next episode, hopefully exercising a reasonable degree of robustness so that no apologies are required. See you all soon.
Goodbye.